Hi, everyone. I'm Keith Mathis with the Mathis Group. We are a premier ATP with the Project Management Institute. Today, we're going to be looking at projects supporting organizational change. And so, welcome to our 7 minutes to PMP mastery. Let's give you a little overview of this. So projects are often the way organizations move from current state to a desired future state. So a project may deliver a new system, process, product, policy, service, structure, or capability, but the real business value usually comes when people actually adopt that change. For the PMP exam, the key idea is something like this. A project deliverable is not the same thing as organizational change and success. And a project can finish on time and on budget, but still fail if the organization does not adopt the new processes and use the new technology, realize the expected benefits, and align the outcome with strategic goals. Now, as you're hearing this, one of the things you might be thinking about is change, project change compared to organizational change. And that's not by accident. PMI is looking at using projects to drive organizational change. And so that it has gotten much broader with all the changes that have happened on the PMP test. So let's look at moments from the current state to the future state. That's a very common shifting process that we look at from making changes in an organization. So if you look to the left, you've got your current state, where we are today. And so let's say we have inefficient processes, disconnected systems, low customer satisfaction, limited business value. And so our organization has all those components, but how do you want it to be in the future? That's going to be your future state. And so you're looking at efficient processes, integrated systems, high customer satisfaction, strong business value. And so we achieve our goals and create lasting value. So you're really wanting to move that organization from the current over to the future state. But notice here in the middle, the project drives organizational change. This might be a brand new concept for you, but this is very much part of the PMP test now. And so PMI looks at being able to define what that new vision is, that future state, and being able to use projects to be able to drive that over to that other side. So organizational change means moving the organization from the current way of working to a new way of working. So this may involve changes in systems, processes, roles, culture, structure, tools, behavior. So you're shifting the entire organization to look differently and for its culture to be different. So project deliverable, business outcome, and adoption. So let's look at these terms. So project deliverable is what the project produces. That's pretty common to us. We've worked with project deliverables in our projects for years. So a business outcome is the result the organization wants from using that deliverable. And adoption means that the stakeholders use the new product. So an example of this for a deliverable would be a new customer relationship management system. The business outcome would be faster sales, follow up, better customer data, improved customer retention. And then the adoption side of this would be stakeholders actually use the new product, process, or capability. And so on the PMP exam, adoption is often the missing link between project completion and benefits realization. So these terms are just a little bit different than what they've ever used them before, with the exception of deliverable. But business outcome and adoption are both new terms to your test. So let's talk about some common mistakes and exam traps. Well, the first one is thinking project success means deliverable completion. For years, from 2006, that's when we began training PMPs, this was part of the PMP test. If you were finishing deliverables on time and on budget, then your project was successful. That is now shifted to where we're looking more at value. Number two here, ignoring resistance. Resistance is not something we're to ignore, it's something that we have to work through. So an exam trap that we show you here would be a department manager resists the new system. The wrong answer is to escalate immediately to the sponsor. The better first step is to meet with the manager and understand the concern. So once again, they challenge us with our tendency to want to escalate a lot of different things. That's not typically what you're wanting to do here. Third is going to be confusing change control with organizational control. And so if a stakeholder requests a new feature, think more change control because it's associated with the project. If stakeholders are struggling to adopt a new process, think change management, communication training, and engagement. But when we think about organizational control, it focuses on helping people in the organization transition over to the new way of working. And then number four, assuming training alone solves adoption problems, and it doesn't. Training may be necessary, But you can take people through training and they still not adopt the new system or the new product. And then number 5, waiting until the end to engage the users. PMI favors early and continuous stakeholder engagement. Waiting until deployment to involve users often increases resistance and reduces adoption because it's such a limited amount of time. And then number 6, treating the sponsor as the only important stakeholder. You've got other stakeholders that you're going to be working with. So here's your key reminder about some of these mistakes. Successful projects don't just deliver outputs, they drive adoption, they realize value, and they help the organization achieve its desired future state. So let's look at a PMP style question for you. So a project team is implementing a new enterprise-wide procurement system. The project is on schedule and systems testing shows the solution meets the approved requirements. 2 weeks before deployment, several department managers tell the project manager that their teams are not ready to use the new system. They believe the new process will slow down urgent purchases and create confusion during the month-end close. The sponsor tells the project manager to proceed because the project is meeting the approved timeline. What should the project manager do first? A, meet with the department managers to understand their concerns, assess readiness and adoption risk, and determine the impact on business value. B, submit a change request to delay the deployment until all department managers fully support the new system. C, proceed with the deployment as planned because the sponsor has confirmed and approved the schedule and schedule should be followed. And then D, ask the training team to schedule additional system training for all users before deployment. Now be very careful on these things where you're escalating, and be very careful with these things where everything stops because one party is having problems. So pick out your answer. Now let's take a look at what the answer is. The correct answer for this was A, the project manager should first meet with the department manager, understand their concerns, assess readiness, adoption risk, determine the impact on the business value. This is the best answer because the issue is not simply technical completion. The system meets requirements, the schedule's on track, but adoption and organizational readiness are at risk. So the project supports organizational change, so the project manager must evaluate whether the organization can successfully transition to the new way of working. So this answer follows PMI's exam logic. So let me hit that here real quick. Understand before acting, engage affected stakeholders, assess the impact before changing the plan, consider adoption and business value, and then avoid forcing a change that may fail operationally. So let's take a look at also at these other answers that were given. So if you look at B, submit a change request to delay the deployment until all department managers fully support the system. This answer acts too quickly. A delay may eventually be needed, but the project manager should first assess the concerns. And so that's what would rule that out. C, proceed with deployment as planned because the sponsor has confirmed the approved schedule should be followed. This is not the best answer because the sponsor is important, but the project manager should not ignore stakeholder readiness and adoption risk. So a project can meet its schedule and still fail to deliver value if the organization cannot use the new system effectively. And then look at D, ask the training team to schedule additional system training for all users before deployment. This may be part of an eventual solution, but it's not the first action. The problem may not be a training issue. It may involve process design, timing, operational readiness, stakeholder buy-in, business risk. It could include a lot of different pieces to this. Now, as you come to the end of this video, if you have other friends and other people who are trying to work on their PMP, pass this video on to some of the others that are in your group so that they can understand a little bit more. We take a different component of the PMP test and break it down and give you some insights. And we've been preparing people for the PMP test since 2006. So as we come to a close, let me thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope it's been beneficial for you. I run boot camps every other month virtually, and so people can tap in from all over the world. I'd love to have you in one of our groups, and we also have the best guarantee in the world. So as you start checking out the guarantee we give compared to others, it will shock you how different our guarantee is compared to anyone else. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope it's been beneficial for you today. Have a great time. Have a great day. Bye now.